Welcome back to The Sideline. I'm Rory Jones, and today I'll be reacting to the biggest talking points across the National Football League, as well as the growth of both American football and flag football in the UK. For today's episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Aisling Byrne-Hansen, an NFL creator and presenter, and unofficially the UK's biggest Green Bay Packers fan. So, first of all, Ash, welcome to The Sideline.
Thanks very much for having me. This is fun. Always good to chat football. I think that's something that we all have in common and stuff as well. We could talk all day and all night, and then just never get anything else done.
Absolutely. I mean, to be fair, I think the combination of that and the sleep schedule, which the NFL kind of subjects us to, I guess it takes up most of our time these days.
100%, yeah.
I'd actually like to start by talking about the Sunday night game between bitter rivals, the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, which saw the Cowboys thump the Eagles by a scoreline of 33-13. The Eagles have now suffered back-to-back losses ever since Big Dom was removed from the sideline a couple of weeks ago, and they started the season so well, actually 10-1. But ever since I mentioned them on the podcast, it's all been downhill. We'll come back to the Eagles, but I'd like to actually start by talking about America's team, or as so they're called. So the Cowboys, they've won their last 5 games. Dak Prescott is playing like an MVP candidate, according to bookmakers. Dan Quinn's defense is forcing turnovers, and after knocking the Eagles off their perch, they've clearly made a statement. They're now 10-3. They sit at the top of the NFC East. So Ash, how about them Cowboys? Could they be a Super Bowl team?
I mean, I think we'll definitely see them in the playoffs. Whether they're going to make the Super Bowl, I think is a different question. I mean, the Cowboys are always the Cowboys at the end of the day. I don't know. I think this year and stuff, there seems to be something a little bit better about their gameplay, and I think that is filtering through what we're seeing from the coaches, and kind of little things like that. Dak Prescott, I mean, it's just been ingrained in me my entire NFL life to dislike the Cowboys, so it is tough. I don't think he's going to win MVP, but hey, he's playing great. Every now and then he is making just silly mistakes and errors, but hey, we're all human at the end of the day. But it was great to see what the Cowboys did against the Eagles. That was always going to be a really tough match. And I think that was, I mean, on paper, it should have been a bit of a battle of the defenses. But I think the Cowboys defense is really helping this Cowboys team out. If they didn't have that defense in play, they would have lost so many more games. So I think their defense definitely outweighs their offense at the moment.
I think the defense is definitely important to mention. I think when you've got the likes of Micah Parsons playing the way he has been ever since coming into the league, and I saw what I quite liked as well, the turnover basket thing they have as well. So like every time a defensive player forces a turnover, they all get a match ball which goes into a basket, so they can actually look at that and think, it's testament to what they've been doing. I mean, Dak Prescott is really balling. I mean, he's got 28 touchdowns. I think it's just 6 interceptions. Already on the season, and completion percentage of 69.3, which is I think second among quarterbacks. And according to Vegas or the odds, that he is the favorite for MVP. But what's interesting about the Eagles is the fact that they started obviously 10-1 and seemingly the Super Bowl favorites at the time. I think coming back to sort of their recent struggles, I guess, over the last couple of weeks, I mean, 49ers defensive end Nick Bosa, he said after last week, he said that they'd given the blueprint for how to beat the Eagles. Do you think this latest result kind of proves him to be right?
Yeah, I think with the Eagles, we're seeing, I mean, they can happily win against teams that aren't quite up against their caliber and stuff at the moment. But when the Eagles lose, these are turning out to be kind of blowout losses. I think I said this the other day. The Eagles really now need to be questioning their rush defense and their rush offense. That is proving a killer for them against teams like we've seen with the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday just gone. It's just creating holes, nothing like, and just obviously Jalen Hurts and stuff can't seem to get that momentum going and everything as well. Obviously, when you've got a team like the Eagles, every team that is going to go up and play them is going to be studying not only their own playbook and stuff, but obviously the Eagles' plays and stuff as well, because the defense needs to be all over what they're about to do. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the Eagles are great. Like, let's not shy away from that and stuff. But if you're a team that's going up and playing against them, you've got to be able to put man coverage on. You've got to be able to cover absolutely everything. Make sure Jalen Hurts cannot scramble and get the run and then get the touchdown as well. But you've got other little things as well. Like, the one big thing I'm loving at the moment from the Eagles is obviously like the brotherly shove or the tush push. I think that's great and stuff as well. But this Eagles team, I mean, they're a team that can be defeated and can be stopped, and we are seeing it being done by teams who are stepping up with their defensive plays at the moment. Yeah, Nick Sirianni, I think he's got just a couple of big holes that he needs to kind of question and fix if they want to take it all the way back to the Super Bowl. But I mean, the Eagles going up against the 49ers, maybe in the NFC Championship game, that could be a bloodbath battle at this stage. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, the Eagles are still good, but yeah, just a couple of big holes that they need to question.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely I kind of see the 49ers game as a huge turning point. I definitely think I love the way they approach that game as well. I love the 49ers team, the way that they have the boombox every time, and they all turned up clad in black as well for that game. It's clearly, revenge was on the cards, but I look at the 49ers as well. I think that they just battered the Seahawks, their biggest rival in the NFC West, and they really seem to be kind of setting the tone as well now. Do you think that's the team to beat in the NFC?
Oh, listen, the NFC is such a weird group of teams at the moment this year. I don't really think there's like one team that is the team to beat at the moment, really, to be honest. I know the 49ers, they had a little bit of a losing streak. They had to sort a couple of things out and everything. Brock Purdy, I think, he's a fantastic quarterback, really coming into his own and stuff this year as well. I mean, this is his first full year as a starter too. But again, much like, say, some of the other teams that we're seeing, so the big players like the Eagles, maybe even the Dallas Cowboys and stuff as well, it's not just the quarterback that is on the team. There are other players and stuff involved as well. Now, CMC, for example, I think he's absolutely fantastic. Best decision of his entire life was leaving Carolina and moving over to the 49ers 100%. But, I mean, it's the NFL. This is the thing I always love. Just because you have a fantastic team on paper, don't get me wrong, the 49ers tick so many good electric boxes. Just because you have a good team on paper, you've got to be able to turn up on the day and execute everything that is going to happen. And we've seen it time and time again where just, a team has been having a great winning streak and stuff, and then suddenly just one day is not their day and another team just outbests them. Do you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
do I think that the team to beat right now? No, I don't. Just because I think, especially in the NFC, there's just so many like characters and teams and stuff, and so many unknowns at the moment. It's still all a bit up in the air, even though technically now we're going into week 15. The regular season's almost over, and we still don't know what really is going to happen.
For me, I think it's almost like a big three or four. It seems in the NFC, it seems like the aforementioned, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Cowboys, the 49ers, that they seem to be almost like a cut above. I think maybe the Lions as well. They've looked a bit shakier sort of down the stretch, but the Lions also look very, very impressive this year, as I'm sure you're grateful to see as a Packers fan. But I think for me, I think the 49ers, the way that they have just kind of dominated in the last couple of weeks, you kind of look at teams that are kind of getting into form at the right time, and I think it's definitely a team that's not going to go anywhere. Just looking at Brock Purdy's numbers as well, I think he's been mentioned as a potential MVP. I mean, you mentioned Christian McCaffrey. For me, that's who the MVP should be. He's already well over 1,000 yards rushing, and the first play of the game, actually, I think he had like a 72-yard run just to get things started. But I do think you look at Brock Purdy, and I think you look at the 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's leading the league in completion percentage. He's leading the league in passer rating and yards per attempt. Do you think it's possible that he can just lead that team on a run? Maybe they end up facing Philadelphia. Who knows? But in terms of them being a Super Bowl caliber team.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'd love to see the 49ers actually get to the Super Bowl. If we can see the Eagles and 49ers in the NFC Championship game, I really hope it's good. We've seen so many games this year where we've had like two big dogs going up against each other and it's kind of fallen a little bit flat. So that's the one thing I am concerned about, for example. But I mean, the Eagles and the 49ers, they're quite similar in their strengths and kind of their weaknesses and stuff as well. I mean, we saw it happen when they played each other a couple of weeks now ago. But I think, this could be a really exciting one if we get to see this rematch up between them. So that'll be something that I am kind of rooting for and I am keen for. And at the end of the day, I'm one of those fans and stuff. I love seeing different teams get back to the Super Bowl rather than the same ones kind of go in there year after year and stuff. Just to see something a little bit different and a bit more dynamic as a fan of the game.
So if you had to, you're not quite sold on the 49ers, but if you had to kind of give your pick for the NFC as of today on the 12th of December, which team do you think you'd go with?
I'll go with the 49ers. Say from today, happily the 49ers. Yeah. The Eagles, I think, are crumbling a little bit under pressure.
It
Eagles will
seems that
still
way.
make the playoffs and everything, but they'll probably they might get the number two or the number three seed even. Who knows? But I think right now, I'd say the 49ers will take it and they'll take the bye week. Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, I really don't like the Eagles, but a part of me does think it would be entertaining to see their fans in Vegas for the Super Bowl. A part of me does kind of want to see that, not to tempt fate or anything. Um, I think for me
True.
that I'd go with the 49ers.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, it's either the 49ers or perhaps the Cowboys seem to be getting hot at the right time. But I think I was actually Colin Cowherd who pointed out. I think one issue with the Eagles was I think they were in so many close games. I think sometimes when you do look at the Super Bowl teams, they're kind of able to blow out teams at various stages in the season, and there's kind of daylight there. So I think maybe I don't know. You look at the way that the 49ers are completely manhandling teams at the moment, dismantling them. I mean, you look at the weapons they have. Debo Samuel over the last couple of games, he's had like 130 receiving yards and or something along those lines in both those games. I mean, you just look at them; it's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, no, 100%. And listen, the NFC, I think it's kind of exciting the fact that there's no standout winner right now. Like you said, obviously, Rory, with the top three teams, you're looking at the Eagles, Cowboys, 49ers at the moment. I would probably take the Lions out of maybe that top mix just right now because something's just going a little bit amiss for them and they're looking like the Lions of old days. But those top three teams, anything can happen, which I think is exciting. And what makes the NFL so fun is kind of, not knowing until the very end maybe who's going to get that number one seed going into the playoffs, what the outcomes and stuff are going to be. I think that just makes it really exciting. And I mean, I just love a good fought battle as well. I hate it when it's kind of like a one-sided win or a one-sided game. I just get bored. I want people to be like in the death grips of things, fighting in the trenches, all of that and everything as well. So I think the NFC is going to be a really, really interesting one this year. And maybe, oh my God, who knows? Maybe we'll see a team get through that none of us are even talking about. That could be just incredibly exciting, and we'll all just lose our tiny little minds over it. Who knows?
I mean, I'm gonna keep using this saying every episode, but any given Sunday, it really does apply. I think that's one of the things that makes the
Oh,
league great. You really never know what's going to happen. I mean, who knows? Sometimes you might have a minute left in a game, and then a Hall of Fame tight end makes an amazing play, laterals it to another player for what would be a game-winning touchdown, but then it gets ruled out. Who knows? But just coming back to that actually. So obviously one of the major talking points from this past weekend. It's probably one of the greatest plays that ever was, or never was rather. But I think when you look at the Chiefs, basically what would have been a game-winning touchdown, when Mahomes finds Kelsey over the middle, he's tearing up the middle of the field. He actually stops. I think it was impulsive as well. Laterals the ball to Kadarius Toney with pretty much a perfect spiral as well. And for a couple of seconds, it looked like the Chiefs had got the win over the Bills, and Arrowhead Stadium was just in pandemonia. But unlike Taylor Swift's latest album, that was not all that she wrote, and the play was obviously called back for Kadarius Toney being lined up in an offside position. I mean, it was an interesting one to watch, wasn't it? I think certainly seeing Mahomes animated as well, to put it lightly. How did you sort of react to how the end of that Chiefs Bills game really unfolded?
I mean, at the end of the day, he was offside. Kadarius Toney was offside. I don't. It's irregardless of how minimal he was. Like I was talking to my good friend Hannah Wilkes, and she said that, for example, like when you look at soccer and the ball, like when the football and stuff goes over the line for a goal and stuff, there are so many different angles that you may or may not see and everything. But with Kadarius Toney, I mean, the Chiefs fans just completely lost it at this call and stuff. But I think, just the way that maybe Patrick Mahomes reacted and stuff as well, it was a little bit weird and definitely a bit uncomfortable to kind of watch. Um, yeah, I mean, everybody is talking about it. The amount of videos that I've seen when Patrick Mahomes went up to see Josh Allen at the end and everything as well, it was just a really weird one. And I think, you know what, the Chiefs just, they need to be a bit more disciplined maybe, and maybe this is something that we're seeing, why they're losing these little games are those small errors and mistakes that can be rectified and everything, but maybe it's just the fact that some of these younger players and everything just need that little bit more experience to get the job done.
I think with Mahomes, I mean, he was pretty rattled. I think to put it lightly. I think it was almost like a meme in the way that he kind of goes up to Josh Allen at the end of the game, as all players do. But I think he was still so incensed at that moment. I think he was even venting at him. It's kind of like he was so angry he just wanted someone to vent at when he kind of said, "Oh, this is the oddest call I've ever seen." But I think his comments in the press conference were interesting. I mean, he was still obviously upset. But he made the point that he thought that the officials ruined greatness. I think with that play. Do you think he has a point, or are you kind of? It seems like you're more kind of in the other camp. Like, no, he was always offside. You
Yeah.
just have to kind of deal with it.
I mean, he does have to deal with it at the end of the day. This is what happens in NFL games. We've seen this entire season. Ref calls do need to be better. A lot of stuff is being missed, whilst other stuff is being pulled up on and everything as well. I am a firm believer that this does need to be reviewed and it does need to be better. But he was offside. Do you know what I mean? There's no point throwing a hissy fit. The more I watch it and the more I read into this and everything, and the more clips I see and everything as well, I'm just like, come on, Patrick Mahomes, like, you know, get it together. Stop. Like, he's basically whinging about it. I do think it was a bit unprofessional and just odd for him to go up to Josh Allen and kind of do that rather than just shake hand, do what you need to do and stuff, and then get out. What's done has been done. You can't then just go back and stuff and say, oh, actually, we've got 5 minutes back on the clock. We're actually just going to redo it just because I've asked. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, everybody's going to have their differences of opinions and stuff on this. But I think the big thing to take away from it at the end of the day is just those ref calls do need to be better. I don't know what the league is going to do because I think we did see a lot of this last season as well. But this year, God, these calls and stuff, some of them are just weird and wonderful. Some of them are incredibly late as well. But I mean, not a game goes by, I think, where we don't have at least one weird call and stuff. But I mean, who knows? If Kadarius Toney wasn't offside and stuff, maybe things could have happened. Maybe the Chiefs would have won completely. Maybe it would have gone into overtime. Who knows? But what's done has been done and everything. And I think Patrick Mahomes just needs to suck this one up. And kind of just get on with it. At the end of the day, the Chiefs didn't play their best, and it kind of feels to me maybe that the Chiefs and maybe Patrick Mahomes are kind of just looking for something to put a bit of the blame or put a bit of the fault on. And hey, it's always easy to kind of blame a call that didn't quite go your way, because then you can be like, oh, well, we would have won if this would have happened. I mean, who knows? Who actually knows? But you've just got to focus on next week, on the next game, and getting that next dub.
I understand your point. I think ultimately this could have all been avoided if Kadarius Toney would have just not been in an offside position. I think to play devil's advocate partly, but also I actually when I was listening to Mahomes, I did actually understand where he was coming from. Like, I mean, I do kind of think. I mean, actually, I saw Dan Orlovsky as well. Obviously, the NFL pundit. He made this point. He'd watched the film of that game, and I think it was 5 times Kadarius Toney was lined up in the same position. And yes, it was slightly offside by, a couple of inches or whatever. I mean, offside is offside. But you do kind of think, and it's a referee's responsibility to point that out to them, like at some point during the game. And I think even Coach Andy Reid as well. I mean, he's the last person you expect to be complaining, but he even labelled it embarrassing that at no point during the game did the Chiefs kind of receive any sort of warning about this. I think I think some fans they kind of found that video as well of Tony looking towards the sideline just before the play to kind of check. Well, I mean, it could have been for a bunch of things, right? He could have been looking as an offensive coordinator. I mean, I don't necessarily know he was checking that he was onside, but you do kind of feel, well, if only the referees, I feel like there's something they could have done to help. I mean, the play's so rare, the call is so rare as well. I mean, have you ever seen an offensive offside before?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one because so many Chiefs fans are saying, oh, the refs should have told us. Somebody should have told us. At the end of the day, you as a player should be knowing this. And if Kadarius Toney, if he's looking towards his own sideline to check whether he's onside or offside, that is down to his kind of coaches and staff and stuff as well to give him the nod or say move back and everything. Like there are so many elements into this. I don't think it's just the ref's fault and everything. But yeah, I mean, I think I've seen more non-Chiefs fans' reactions to this online than I have seen Chiefs fans really at the moment. Twitter or X, I always forget which one it's called now. Yeah, it's just rife kind of with the madness that is basically this call. And I mean, I could chat for a good hour and stuff, maybe just on this particular one. And I always love like a good little debate and just see what other people's opinions and thoughts are and stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, the man was offside. And that's just the way it is and everything. I mean, what were the refs going to do? Just let that one slide? Then the Bills fans would have been unhappy. So, I mean, you can't please everybody, but if you're offside, you're offside. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think, I think this might just need to be one that the Chiefs kind of need to park to the side and, make sure that they don't make an error like that again. Yeah, I mean, why should the refs be helping them out too much throughout the game and letting them know? Do you know what I mean?
With the Chiefs, though, I think the only thing is they have kind of had this recently where teams accuse them of getting favourable calls. But I mean, you do look at the Von Miller offside, though. There was a clear offside on Von Miller, which was just completely missed. There was also a face mask on Mahomes at some point during the game, ripped his helmet off in similar way to Rodgers a few years ago, wasn't called. So either way you look at it, there definitely needs to be some consistency there with the officiating.
Oh yeah, like I said, definitely consistency. And like I said as well, we're seeing this happen not just in the Chiefs games, but in every game. There's just kind of bad calls and stuff coming out. So it is a big thing that needs to be discussed in the off season to rectify. But in some games and stuff, we are kind of seeing these calls balance out. For both sides and everything to try and make it fair, maybe make it a bit even. But it shouldn't be down to the refs maybe to kind of determine these calls. Let the players do what they need to do and kind of just play good ball. But I will die on a hill over this. Kadarius Toney was offside. And I know Chiefs fans will be like, yeah, but there is no but. He was offside. And it sucked because, it was a great throw to Travis Kelce. It was great to see Travis Kelce then kind of go back to his quarterback days, see where Kadarius Toney was and everything. And it was beautiful to see. But yeah, I mean, the flag was already thrown and stuff as well. So it wasn't as if this was a late call too. And somebody was kind of like on the VR and, whispering down to them and everything. But hey, I mean, the Chiefs lost a game. It's not a huge deal and stuff for them. I think they'll still make the playoffs and everything. But I think, it's losing a game and stuff isn't the worst thing in the world because it does show kind of what areas you do need to work on and everything, and whether that's just little things, like discipline and little things like that. I mean, we see it from Jason Kelce, for example, on the Eagles. The amount of penalties that he got the other week just from like flinching on the snap and everything is something that he cannot do. And you'd think as kind of like a veteran player he would know this, but hey, everybody makes those little mistakes. So, from a fan perspective, it is frustrating. Of course it is. But you can't dwell on it too much, and you do need to focus on the next kind of couple of games because the season ain't over. We've still got a lot more football to play, which is really exciting.
Personally, I think you definitely make a good point. I think it's at the end of the day, you can't be beating yourselves with mistakes or unnecessary offsides or anything like that. The only other point which I think Mahomes made, which I completely agree with on this occasion, is the fact that whether or not he's a couple of inches offside or not, that's not really up for debate. He obviously was. But it didn't really impact the outcome of the play, did it? I mean, if you're lined up as a receiver and you're like, a couple of feet above in front of the line, yes, you can understand it. But I think it didn't really impact the outcome of the play, seemingly. And for me to see a play like that, which was a game winning play, I think you see, as Mahomes said, a Hall of Fame play made by a Hall of Fame player. When Kelsey somehow he round back the years to when he was a quarterback at Cincinnati and threw a perfect ball as well, whilst he's actually running pretty much full speed. A play like that to be taken away. I mean, just for for the football gods or the fan inside you, you kind of like, damn, I really wish that would have stood. I mean, on this occasion, I am just gonna say like, I wish it would have stood because I think you see how rare that call is as a penalty, and I think it's if it was something that was being flagged constantly about players being playing on offense and offside, I'd understand it. But there were only 13 offensive offsides this year, and then I think 3 last season and none in 2021. So there needs to be some sort of consistency to that.
Yeah, Rory, we could chat about this all day. I mean, my standing ground is like, if it's a rule, it's a rule. You've got to know it if you're going to play it and everything. The refs know what the rules are as well, and just because you think to yourself, oh, other people haven't been called up for this and stuff, sod's law. If that were me, and then I just, accidentally did it and stuff, I would be the person that get calls up for it, and then I'd lose that game-winning touchdown for my team. But yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. I think there does need to be consistency. If they're going to be calling it up, they need to be calling up all the time that it happens and not just letting it slide for, one person here, one person there. Just do it consistently. But like I've said and stuff as well already, at the end of the day, this isn't a Super Bowl game. So, it's a loss that isn't, the end all or be all and stuff for them. So, I mean, yeah, hopefully maybe these conversations with the refs and stuff are already happening, just so that we can see more consistency for these calls and stuff when we come to the playoffs, because that's probably going to be something that will be tricky for players to kind of like hide their frustration and anger if these sort of things happen in playoff games, and even in a Super Bowl matchup as well.
I do agree with you. I think one thing at least, as you mentioned, at least could you imagine if this happened in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs? It would be a different story entirely. I do sort of see I mean, the Chiefs have been struggling slightly this year, especially on offense. There's no hiding that. And they're currently 8-5. They're actually only one game ahead now of the Denver Broncos, who were pretty much a joke at the start of the year. After starting, I think it was either 1-5. I think it was 1-5. They started and they won 5 consecutive games. I mean, they're looking pretty impressive now. I think the Chiefs though. Coming back to them, they were one of the few teams you played in Germany this year, and obviously you being able to attend that game and the NFL's international games this year, I thought that would be a good segue into that. So, would you be able to talk about your experience of attending those games and kind of how you've seen the game evolve as well since you first started following?
Oh yeah, I mean, looking at the Germany games, I think to start off with, the German fans, I absolutely love. I adore them. They are ready to go 24/7. It's a different culture and a different vibe than, say, like the UK games that we have over here in London. The Germany fans, I always say and stuff as well, like, say if I'm ever doing like man on the street or Vox Box stuff, talking with fans and everything, if I'm talking with English fans, some of them need like a pint or two in them first before they're like ready to have a camera put in their face and a microphone as well. They need a bit of that Dutch courage. The German fans, oh my God, they don't need any of that. They are wild on a most spectacular level. And they know their sport. They are so passionate, so educated. They absolutely love it. So seeing obviously the game develop over there for them and see kind of, big teams and stuff go over. They did get lucky with that Chiefs Miami one because, I mean, at this point last year, we had no idea what the Dolphins were going to be like. But obviously the Chiefs, the the Chiefs' international market, I think, is Germany as well. So obviously we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, but that was just great to see. And even with the flag football stuff that is happening over in Germany as well, that is also going from strength to strength. In the Frankfurt game and everything, we had a couple of them come on in half time and everything. You got to meet them. I got to meet a couple of the women's players as well, which was just absolutely inspiring and just really fun too. But it was great, just kind of like sitting there in the crowds and everything, and the Frankfurt Deutsche Bank Stadium. It was just a range of people from like little kids all the way up to like what maybe looked like grandpas and grandmas and stuff. Like the beautiful thing about the NFL in Europe and stuff is that, you know, it's not just limited to one particular group or one particular age group or anything like that. It is welcoming to all. But with the Germany games, it is very similar for the UK. You know, every team does get represented. You are seeing every jersey for like miles and stuff as well, which is always really exciting too. But with the London games as well, I think we had a couple of maybe flat quarters, I will happily say that, which always happens. And I think, you know, the more I kind of see these international games happen, the more it is interesting to kind of delve into the aspect that, you know, these teams are coming over. But even, you know, if you look at a flight maybe from New York to LA, that's probably the same kind of amount of time as a flight from New York to London, maybe give or take an hour or two. It's just this, it's the time difference that I think is a killer for these teams. I don't know the stats, and I have them somewhere. Which, with my 3 hours sleep, I can't remember them off the top of my head. The teams that fly
You're good.
over, the teams that fly over on Thursday or land Friday morning always tend to lose on the Sunday matchups in London.
Yeah.
And the teams that come in and stay for the week to acclimatise and do all that, they seem to be doing a lot better. Look at the Jaguars, they came for 2 weeks. They won back to back and everything, which is fantastic. So I think that is something that these teams do need to bear in mind. Yeah, I mean, the players, some of them, they do get a bit frustrated and annoyed that they've got to travel to London. I mean, MVS, he was having a rant on X about how he had to get a dog sitter for 3 days. Just mediocre, you know, first world problems,
Tragic, isn't
trivial
it? Can
stuff
you
for
imagine
these
having
guys.
to do that?
Exactly. But, you know, having the opportunity, I think, as fans of the game and everything, we we as fans, we're just excited to see a live game of football. That's it. If it's your team as well that's coming over, bonus. But we just want to see good matchups, good teams. I mean, in London, we were so blessed to be able to see kind of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. They were both at Tottenham and everything. I might park to the side the Falcons and Jags game at Wembley just because that was a bit dud. But it could have been great, but I mean, the Falcons are the Falcons at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, it's beautiful to see. And I think we're only going to see that get even better with the international markets growing as well. We've got Spain and Brazil on the cards too. And I think, it might not be long before we see maybe just an international week happen. Because a lot of people don't know. NFL and stuff, for example, absolutely huge in Australia and New Zealand. Huge. We have a couple of players, obviously, in from Australia and stuff. Mailati, obviously, on the Eagles team and stuff as well at the moment. So there's so many great things happening for this international market, and it just needs to keep growing, just keep developing. And with flag football and stuff happening as well, obviously flag football is at the Olympics now, which is absolutely amazing. I think this is, I think we're only going to see kind of American football get even bigger, which is really exciting and stuff as well. And at the end of the day, all you need is just a couple of your mates and a ball, bit like our soccer, football and everything. And you can just go down to the park. Like it's not like an expensive thing that's only limited, if you've got rich parents or little things like that and stuff. There's so many ways that younger kids and stuff can get into it. And that is what we're kind of seeing from fans and stuff as well at these international games, because it's not just grown adults anymore sitting in the stands. People are bringing their kids, they're getting involved, they're wearing the jerseys. It's fantastic. And whether it's maybe got a little bit of something to do as well with kind of the pop culture side of things that we're seeing now in the NFL. Obviously, you've got Taylor Swift, and you've got kind of crossovers as well from other sports too that we're seeing. Obviously, Formula One is going to be a big one with the NFL, and obviously golf as well that we're seeing. It's just, I'm excited. I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to officially find out what is going to happen next year for the international games. I do think we probably might see one in Brazil instead of Spain, first of all. That's kind of what we're hearing at the moment. But who knows? But even college football. So I mean, they love it in Dublin. So I mean, that happens every August and stuff as well, which is really fun. And they have their teams kind of stacked, ready to go for the next couple of years over there, which is amazing. So you know, it's just exciting to see and just to be a part of.
Absolutely, I think you said it very well there. I think covered a number of points as well. Definitely interesting to hear about the German fans. I mean, they really seem to know their shit. I think when it comes to the NFL, I think with regards to I mean the number of teams they have, they've got their own GFL, and then they've got I think it's 7 teams in the European League of Football. Um, but I think it's definitely interesting to look at the NFL's international expansion. That's definitely one of the topics that I'm most interested in. I think one of the things you mentioned as well, just quickly on flag football, that was recently added as an Olympic sport actually for the LA 2028 Olympics. How significant do you think that is for the growth and development of flag football as well, internationally in the lead up to those games?
Absolutely huge, phenomenally huge. So obviously, if I use JagTag football as an example, so obviously Jaguars, unofficially London's team and everything, but they have a great initiative and incentive, which they call kind of their JagTag football schemes and everything. And that is kind of growing around schools and everything. So it's not just, a club thing that you need to kind of suss out on Google now and kind of go find out yourself. These are happening within schools and everything as well. So it's really exciting to see it maybe, and not right now, but maybe, maybe it could just be in a year's time, maybe it could be a couple of years, but become part of like a curriculum and stuff for kids and everything, which I just think is fantastic. And at the end of the day, it's a fun exercise. Do you know what I mean? They're outside, they're getting stuck in, it's non-contact, so you're not going to get like massively injured or whatever. But it's just fun, and it's fun to see these kids have an inclusive thing that everybody can be involved in, which I think is super important. But I mean, flag football being in the Olympics, I think it's phenomenal for the growth of the sport as a whole internationally. It needed a platform, a worldwide global platform, and what better than the Olympics? I mean, it's televised absolutely everywhere. Every country in the world should hopefully be able to watch it, get involved in everything. And the fact that these, the flag football stuff especially, is growing from country to country, which is just really exciting. So yeah, I mean, in the UK, for example, I know it's huge, still growing and stuff as well. And I know recently, when was it? Maybe end of October, early November. I know some of the people who are involved, especially with flag football from NFL UK, they went over to Ghana. They did more flag football stuff over there. Obviously, NFL in Africa, absolutely huge, and it's most of it is down to the flag football schemes that they've got stuff there as well. And they also developed the first one in Brazil, which is really cool. It's not just Mexico that is really into NFL. American football in Southern America and Latin America is absolutely huge. So to see it in Brazil, I mean, imagine going to like an international game over in Brazil as well. I mean, that it blows my tiny kind of mind to think about it. But yeah, I think it's fantastic. I can't wait to see it in the Olympics. And I know our Team GB girls and everything. They should be able to absolutely crush it. And I mean, if we can take the USA down as well, that'll just be cherry on top of the cake.
Yeah, can you imagine that would be pretty cool. I think as well, knowing how well the women's team has been doing. I think they've won the was it European Championships this year,
Yeah.
Team GB. No, they're absolutely crushing it. I think it will be interesting as well to see which of the countries that are contending with the US. I think Spain, Brazil, both countries which could well get games in a couple of years as well. Another thing I saw was that New York Jets and the Chicago Bears, both of them have marketing rights in the UK. They launched like a London-based flag football tournament. So just one final question on what do you think are the next steps for flag football in the UK?
Oh my goodness. Next steps of flag football in the UK. So that's a question, Rory. For what would I do? You know what? I think. I mean, so I was there actually when the Jets and the Chicago Bears initiated that. So it was at Little Leland Primary School. in West London. So they're the team that obviously won and went out to Vegas last year for the Pro Bowl. They didn't do that great. But obviously, fantastic for them to kind of be a part of the bigger picture and go to Vegas. I mean, it's awesome. But that
Yeah,
was
why
just
not?
great to see. It was for girls, which was really cool. So, it was a girls' initiative, all girls' schools and everything and stuff as well, which was just really exciting to see. And I think, just a little segue, obviously, the women's flag football side, I think, is absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, we know what the men can do and everything, that's fab. But to be able to see kind of like 11, 12, 13-year-old girls just get so passionate about it, get to meet some of these players and stuff as well. I was like, all right, I would have loved that as a kid. But what did I get? Go to like the model village or whatever, things like that. But what would I do in terms of flag football? I think the next kind of steps, especially here in the UK, I just think it needs to be maybe developed more within schools, which I know that they are doing. But obviously it is still growing, and I know a lot of schools and stuff, they sometimes don't know where to start and everything. But I was chatting to a really cool guy, so he's called Shane Boyce, who works with NFL UK, and he is basically just a really big part of helping that growth for flag football. He goes into schools and works kind of with the teachers and stuff as well, lets them know kind of how to run things, where to get equipment. So obviously, yeah, you do need a couple of balls, you do need, cones, your flags and everything. It's nothing much, but sometimes, at the end of the day, a cost is a cost, and we are in our living crisis at the moment and everything. But hats off to the guys at NFL UK for actually going in and helping support these schools and stuff to let them know how to do things, get involved with the bigger community and everything. So I just think it needs to be that little bit more of a step up, and maybe get it involved in kind of every school nationwide. I think that would be the best next step for that further expansion and growth here in the UK, just to make it maybe like a common household topic of conversation, Oh, like, what sport did you play today? Oh, hockey, netball, rugby, flag football, I definitely think, we're knocking on that door. And, it's not going to happen overnight, not at all. But, with the way that the growth of NFL internationally is helping as well. I do think this is going to be sped along a little bit. So we could be there in a couple of years, which I think is a fantastic timeline to kind of think about that even bigger picture moving forward.
Absolutely. I think those two things definitely with American football and flag football can grow sort of in tandem with each other, of course. But definitely interesting to hear about, and interested to see how it evolves as well in the future. But Ash, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Thanks a lot for joining. Yeah, good luck to your Packers, I guess, for the rest of the season, and yeah, all the best.
I stayed up, Rory. I stayed up for nothing.
Look, it happens to the best of us. I mean, I stayed up one time. I had a uni lecture the next day. Maybe shouldn't admit this. I stayed up to watch the Ravens as number one seed get thumped in 2019 by the Titans. That was brutal. That was destroyed my sleep schedule and everything else with it. So
We live for it, though. At the end of the day, we live for
yeah,
it, so it's grand.
you live through it. Any given Sunday, you never know what's going to happen. I think that's the main takeaway.